There's a moment that catches people off guard. It happens after they've changed, after they've grown, after they've done the work they said they would do. Life starts to look different. Opportunities appear, old patterns loosen, and instead of relief, they feel uneasy. Not afraid exactly, just unsettled. They wonder why something feels off when things are finally moving forward. They ask themselves questions like, why don't I feel grounded yet? Why does this still feel unfamiliar? Why do I keep slipping back into old reactions? And quietly they begin to doubt the change. They think maybe they moved too fast. Maybe they weren't ready. Maybe the old version of them was safer after all. But what they're experiencing is not failure, it's mistrust. Not from the mind, but from the nervous system. Because the nervous system doesn't update when your goals change. It updates when familiarity changes. And right now, the version of you that's emerging has not yet become familiar. Your nervous system learned who you were through repetition, through routines, through emotional states, through environments you survived inside. So when you change your behavior, your thinking, or your direction, the nervous system doesn't immediately follow. It watches, it scans, it asks, is this stable? Is this safe? Is this going to last? And until it has enough evidence, it stays guarded. This is why growth can feel exciting one moment and destabilizing the next. Your mind is ready to move forward. Your identity is shifting. But your nervous system is still learning whether this new version of you can be trusted to survive here. And when that trust hasn't formed yet, the system pulls you back toward what it knows. Not to punish you, not to sabotage you, but to restore familiarity. This is why people regress right after growth, why old habits resurface when things begin working, why calm progress suddenly feels uncomfortable. And until you understand this dynamic, you'll keep mistaking a normal biological response for self-sabotage. But once you see what's actually happening, everything changes. Because the question is no longer, what's wrong with me? It becomes, what does my system need to trust this new version of me? When growth feels unfamiliar, it's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign your system hasn't caught up yet. To understand why your nervous system doesn't trust the new you yet, you have to understand how trust is built biologically. Trust is not created through intention. It's not created through logic. And it's not created through promises you make to yourself. Trust is created through predictable experience. Your nervous system learned the old version of you by watching what you did repeatedly under pressure. It learned how you respond when things go wrong, how you handle uncertainty, how you react to success, how you move when you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. That's the version it knows. So when you change, when you start making different choices, responding with more awareness, or living at a higher level, the nervous system doesn't instantly update. It waits. It looks for consistency. It asks, will this version still show up when things aren't easy? This is why insight alone doesn't stabilize change. You can understand yourself deeply and still feel pulled back emotionally. Because the nervous system isn't listening to insight. It's watching behavior. It's watching states. It's watching whether this new version of you is reliable under stress. This is also why people often feel calm when everything is going well, but reactive when life introduces pressure. The nervous system defaults to the version of you it trusts most, not the version you prefer, the version that has proven it can survive difficulty. So when pressure appears, the system doesn't ask, who do you want to be now? It asks, who kept us safe before? And unless the new you has been practiced under stress, the old responses return. Not because you failed, but because trust hasn't been established yet. This is where most people misinterpret regression. They think it means they've undone their growth. But what it really means is that the nervous system hasn't finished learning. Change isn't fragile, it's incomplete. And incomplete trust creates hesitation. The system needs evidence, not perfection, that the new version of you can be depended on. And once that evidence accumulates, something powerful happens. The pull backward weakens. The new behaviors stabilize, and growth stops feeling temporary. When your nervous system begins to trust the new you, forward movement stops feeling risky and starts feeling normal. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they start changing is assuming that time alone will create trust. They believe that if they just stay consistent long enough, the nervous system will eventually relax. But time doesn't build trust. Experience does. And more specifically, experience under pressure. Your nervous system doesn't update when life is calm. It updates when life tests you. This is why people often feel stable during periods of ease, but revert under stress, because stress is where trust is measured. When pressure appears, the nervous system scans. Are we safe doing this now? If the answer is unclear, it reaches for old strategies, not because they're good, but because they're familiar. This is why change feels fragile when you haven't practiced it inside discomfort. You may act differently when things are smooth, but the moment uncertainty appears, old reactions surface, and people assume that means they failed. But what it actually means is that the nervous system hasn't yet seen enough evidence. Trust is built through repetition in varied conditions, not just when you feel strong, but when you feel tired. Not just when things are clear, but when things are uncertain. Not just when you're confident, but when doubt appears. Each time you respond differently inside pressure, you send your system a message. This version can handle this too, and slowly that message accumulates. The nervous system doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency. It needs to see that the new you doesn't disappear when things get uncomfortable. This is also why people often experience a strange mix of progress and regression. They're growing, but they're growing unevenly. Some situations are integrated, others aren't yet. And that unevenness is part of the process. The mistake is trying to eliminate it instead of understanding it. Because when you stop fighting regression and start using it as feedback, trust accelerates. Not by force, but by clarity. When you stop expecting trust to arrive on its own and start building it through experience, change stops feeling temporary. So if trust is built through experience, the question becomes, how do you give your nervous system the experiences it needs without overwhelming it? Because trust isn't created by throwing yourself into the deep end. It's created through graduated exposure, small, repeatable experiences that prove safety over time. This is where most people rush. They try to live as the new version of themselves in every area at once. They change habits, they raise standards, they take on responsibility, and the nervous system gets flooded. Not because change is bad, but because it's happening too fast to be integrated. The nervous system doesn't ask for less change. It asks for predictability inside change. This is why stability matters more than intensity. You build trust by responding differently in small moments, pausing before reacting, staying present during discomfort, choosing regulation over escalation, remaining steady when uncertainty appears. Each of these moments sends a message. We're safe doing this. And over time, those messages stack. You also build trust by allowing rest after growth, not collapse, rest. Rest teaches the system that expansion doesn't require constant vigilance, that it's okay to come down without losing progress. This is critical. If every step forward is followed by tension, the system learns growth equals strain. But if growth is followed by recovery, the system learns this pace is survivable. Trust also builds through self-consistency, doing what you say you'll do, not perfectly, but reliably. This doesn't mean pushing yourself. It means choosing commitments that don't require self-override to keep, because every broken promise resets trust, and every honored commitment, even a small one, reinforces it. Over time, your nervous system begins to relax, not because it's convinced intellectually, but because it's learned through experience. And when that happens, the new version of you stops feeling foreign. It starts feeling familiar. When your system learns that growth doesn't require overwhelm, trust begins to replace resistance. When your nervous system begins to trust the new you, growth stops feeling like something you have to defend. You no longer brace for regression. You no longer interpret discomfort as danger. You no longer panic when old reactions briefly surface, because you understand what's happening. Trust doesn't eliminate challenge. It changes how challenge is experienced. Instead of pulling you backward, difficulty becomes information. Instead of destabilizing you, pressure becomes something you can move through without losing yourself. This is the moment growth stops feeling fragile. Not because life becomes easier, but because your system no longer believes that difficulty means collapse. You begin to feel grounded inside unfamiliar success. You remain present inside responsibility. You stay regulated inside uncertainty. And over time, the nervous system stops scanning for the old version of you, because it no longer needs to. The new you has proven itself, not through intensity, not through perfection, but through steadiness. This is how change becomes durable, not because you forced yourself forward, but because you taught your system it didn't need to pull you back anymore. And once that trust is in place, momentum no longer feels borrowed. It feels owned. You move forward without asking permission. You grow without destabilizing. You expand without abandoning yourself. That's when the new you stops feeling new. It becomes familiar. And familiarity is what allows growth to last.